Well, boys, I thought I'd make another video for you to do some watercolor with, and I had a couple of suggestions. And the suggestion, I think, from Isaac was space. When I think of space, I don't know what you are thinking of in your head, but in my head, it's a picture of the Earth that was taken from the moon when the astronauts were going to the moon back in the late 1960s. And so I thought I'd try and do a picture of that. We don't need too many colors, but we will need some grays and some dark blues and a little bit of light blue and green. And then we'll need something to make a circle for the Earth. I was thinking here of a quarter, but maybe a button, and it also depends on how big your piece of paper is. So the Earth is going to be pretty small, and we'll get a piece of paper and get our paints together and get a place to mix paint, because we're going to need some lights and some darks. So you'll need a place to put water into your paint and to make a light gray as well as a dark gray, a light blue as well as a dark blue. We'll need much more dark blue than we will light blue. And then something to make a circle. So let's get our supplies together, and then I'll show you how we start. Okay, boys, so now what we're going to do is we're just going to sketch out our picture. And first we're going to go just lightly do this is the edge of the moon here, just kind of a random line, just like that. Can you see that? Remember, I have to do this darker so you can see. Now what we're going to do, I decided that I was going to use the bottom of this for my circle, and you're going to put it on the line so just part of it ends up being the Earth. This is our Earth here. So just the top half. So can you see that? That's the Earth kind of right in front of the moon that we're going to do. Now, I said that I remember this from when the moon landings happened, and because of that, I thought we should put an astronaut in the picture. So one of the things about putting people in pictures is that it gives you an idea of how big things are, because you know how big a person is. So first, it's going to be very easy to do a person, an astronaut. We're going to do a square, well, rectangle, I guess it is. That's his backpack. Then we're just going to do his front, his head. That is a big thing here. And then we're going to know it's an astronaut because he has legs here. And then we'll put an arm down here. This will all be later. We just want to do this so that we save this. Excuse me. And then he's going to be on top of a rock here. So let me show you that. Very simple. And we need that because, remember, we cannot make things lighter in watercolor. We can only make things darker. Now, the moon, the astronauts wore white. And so he's going to be white with some shadows. So we're going to need to be sure we don't paint that place dark gray, because we won't be able to make him white anymore. Okay, so that's the simple sketch that we're going to use. Now we need the color gray. So in your palette, maybe you have a gray, maybe you don't. This is my palette. I have Payne's gray over here, but the other way you can make gray is to mix together brown and blue. So I thought I'd show you that, because I'm guessing maybe you don't have gray or black in your palette. So let's mix together the brown and the blue. So here's my water. Well, you can't see my water. I can't seem to get the my phone up high today. So anyway, here's some brown. We're going to put the brown here. Let's get enough of it. Just because we've got a big place we're going to need to cover with a color gray. Then we've got blue here. See the blue? Oop, we'll see. It's already turning to gray. It's blue. And let's put it with the brown. That's too brown, I think. I think we need some more blue in there. This will be handy also because this blue we're going to use for the sky later. So it's helpful if you have a piece of paper where you can try out the colors. Let's see. How does this look, boys? That's kind of a grayish, isn't it? It has some brown tones, which is kind of nice. Should we add a little more blue? What would happen if we added a little more blue? Okay, is it going to be grayer? Looks bluer. Maybe that's too much. So it's kind of going back and forth. Okay, we're going to add more brown. Maybe you have the color gray, like I said, you can use that and just water it down. I think that's pretty good. Okay, so first thing, what we're going to do, one of the things with watercolor is that we need time for things to dry, which is different from some other mediums that you might use. So here we've got our paper, and I'm going to take a larger brush. Not sure how big you have a brush. I know boys, you have a small brush, but I'm going to take this bigger brush, if you have a bigger brush, and we're just going to wet this whole part except for our astronaut. Right around the astronaut we're wetting, and down. Remember, when we wet it, we want it to have a sheen. We want enough water, but not too much water. We want it to have a sheen, but we don't want it to be pooling, running off the page. I'm going to do this underneath them too. You know, one thing I didn't do, boys, was I didn't erase my pencil lines, did I? Remember what I said last time? You can not erase the lines if you watercolor over the top of them. So I think we need to do some erasing here, especially of our, let's make this line a little lighter. Although we're going to have some darker colors over the top, so it won't be as crucial. Okay, so does the paper have a sheen? You see it? It kind of becomes shiny. Don't know if you can see that on the video. So let's get our brush, one of our brushes, and we're going to put in the gray for our moon. I'm going to pick up this gray. We're going to drop this in all over the place. Let it meld with the water. And you can remember too that watercolor dries lighter than when you first put it on. Ooh, that almost looks green, doesn't it? It dries lighter, and so you may think this is too dark, and like I said, you can't make it lighter, except it will dry lighter a little bit. That's the only thing, that way it becomes lighter is if the color dries lighter. Okay, ooh, that's green, isn't it? Some green tones in there. That's interesting. Okay, so that's the beginning of the moon landing. Maybe we'll do under his feet as well. That's a better gray right there. That was from a different place on my palette. Okay, we're going to let that dry. There you go, just the wash across the bottom there. We're going to let it dry. So one of the things I wanted to just mention as our piece is drying over here is why we let it dry. So if you have, let's put some water down. We'll put some water down here, and then we'll add some paint to it. And let's say, okay, let's say this is the edge of our moon, right? Right there, it's the edge of the moon. And we say, oh, well, I don't want to let it dry. I want to keep going. I don't want to take the time to have it dry. I know that's one of the things with watercolor that can be a pain. I'm just going to paint right next to it. So we take a dark blue, and we're going to paint right next to it. You know what happens? They mesh together. Can you see how one meshes to the other? And you end up not having a great line. Now right there, it's not too bad. It's not too bad, is it? Part of it is today is a very hot day, and this can make your watercolor dry faster. Here you can see it is kind of meshing together, and we're going to use that to our advantage later. But if you look at this piece right here, and I take the blue and go right up next to it, they won't mesh together because a dry place won't grab the new color. And we can keep a nice crisp line. See that line between the two? Whereas here you can see here, this is not crisp. It is melding together. And if you have it really wet, let's wet this down here again. We're waiting for things to dry, so I'm trying to take up the time here. Let's see, we got that really wet, and then we want to put something next to it. It all spreads out. Now this we're going to use for our galaxy. This is one of the really fun things about watercolor, is how the colors will do funny things and mesh and spread in beautiful ways. So we're going to make some galaxies in our sky. So now, hopefully, our watercolor is dry. Ooh, see, that's got a lot of water there moving around. Hopefully our watercolor is dry. We're going to go back to that now. Okay, now we're going to do the earth next. So we need a few colors for earth, don't we? We need a green. I'm going to make a green here. And then we need a blue for the ocean. Ocean blue there. And actually, if we put a little green with that, we'll make it a darker ocean blue. Whatever you want to use for a lovely ocean color. And then we want a little, maybe some brown, or let's see, I need my spray bottle here. Some brown, and this is kind of a dark yellow. Can you see that? A darker yellow. Okay, I think I need more green. Let's put some more green over here. Okay, that's a better green, like that. Now, what we're going to do for our earth here, we've got a lovely circle there. We're going to take our earth first. We're going to take our brown, and you kind of know what the United States looks like, Canada. It's kind of like, ooh, that's watery. You know, if you have a paper towel, you can get the water off your brush if you have too much. So I'm going to take a little bit more color and make this kind of like United States, and then you have just vaguely, not a lot. It doesn't have to be exact at all, just kind of an idea of it. And then we can drop in some green because it's not all brown, is it? There's some greens here and there. Oh, that's lots of water. If you get too much water, one of the things you can do is you can take your brush and dry it off, and it becomes a thirsty brush, and then it will drink up the water off your paper. I'm going to add some more green to this. Kind of like that. Okay, so now around the outside here, we want ocean, right? But what will happen if I put it right up next to this color, our landmass here? It's going to all spread out. So I'm going to have to wait for that to dry. We're going to wait for that to dry. Now, while I'm waiting for that to dry, I can go back to my moon, can't I? And the moon has different circles on it. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take my moon, get my brush all clean. I'm going to take my moon and I'm going to add water across it on top of our dried paint. I'm going to add water all around here, and we're going to make some moon rocks. And get close to our astronaut. Right up close to him. Let's not touch him. The water becomes a barrier. The edge of the water becomes a barrier, so you won't have any color going beyond where the water is. Okay, so now we've got kind of our grays over here that we had before. My palette here, this gray that we had before. And I'm just going to drop it in circles like this. We're going to make kind of maybe a circle here. Drop some in over here. Just so we know that this is not flat land, is it? It's all bumpy and ragged, and we're going to let this kind of disperse out to make our moon look like it has craters in it, other stuff in it. We're going to put rocks later. After this dries, we're going to put rocks there. That. So you see how it gives it a little bit of texture? It looks a little more like it's bumpy ground instead of flat ground when we add these different blobs of color in on top of the water. Here you can see over here, this is dried already. It's 97 degrees, well, it's 87 here. I know you use Celsius, but never got used to that. Very hot. It's just very hot today. I'm even sitting in a room that has an air conditioner here, and it's still very hot. Okay, so that made our picture, our moon, a little bit more rocky looking, right? Okay, now we're going to let that dry. Oh, I know it's hard to let things dry. I know, I've been there and I've rushed things, and then it ruins the whole piece. So let's take a minute and let this dry. Now, while we're letting that dry, we can practice something for our expansive sky beyond our Earth. And we're going to need an orange, and we're going to need a dark blue. So let's see. I'm going to just wet it, and hopefully you have an extra piece of paper there that you can use. I'm going to wet the paper like so. And then we are going to take some blue and just add the blue in just straight from the palette because we want it to be dark. And before it dries, we want to put in some red for some sky burst. Maybe a constellation over here. Maybe something over here. Now we can go back, and things get interesting if you have different shades of a color. You don't want everything to be flat. So here's another blue we can add, a different kind of blue. I'm not so sure I like that blue, but that's okay because we can add a color on top of it. We're not committed because we're going dark. We're going really dark. I want to go up to where our sky has these explosions of color here. Up to it. We can mix our two blues together. And there can be some. Whoa. Okay, now we can go back and maybe get another blue. I have this blue. Ooh, that's the third blue in my palette. Remember, blue is one of those colors that's a primary color. You cannot get the color blue by mixing anything together. Whereas you can get, remember, you can get the color orange by mixing together. Remember what it was? It's yellow and red. When you mix yellow and red together, you can get orange. But you cannot mix any color together to get blue. We can take a blue and add different colors to it to make it a different shade, but you have to start with a blue. So here, we want this, we don't want a line in our galaxy. Okay, so that's just practice, right? Now, since that's done, we can go over to our other piece here. It's looking pretty good, I think. Okay, is it dry? Not quite. It's not quite dry. Let's wait a few more minutes. Okay, now we have our piece here. We're going to fill in the rest of the earth here. And the way we're going to do that is with watercolor, and we also need a paper towel or a napkin, something paper. Not toilet paper, that wouldn't work, but if you have a paper napkin, that should work. So we're going to put water on our earth. Try and be careful about getting it around the edge so we're sure we have a round edge. I'm going to go in here, make it right up to the moon's edge. Down, all just with water. I'm wondering how hot it is where you are. I bet it's hot there too. Unless you're watching this in the winter time. I'm assuming you're watching it at the same time I'm making it, but you could go back and watch it in the winter and then it'd be cold outside, wouldn't it? Anyway, and then we're going to go up here. Okay, now here's the blue that I mixed up before, and I'm going to pat this, maybe with some more water. It looks a little, okay. We're going to put this around. This is the ocean on the earth. And pat it into this, so the water I've already laid down. I'm going to move it around with my brush. Move it around the edge of the earth here. Now when the astronauts saw the Earth from the moon, it was so exciting for all of us to see the pictures that they took because no one had ever seen that before. I remember seeing those pictures for the first time of seeing the moon, the Earth from the moon. Okay, we're going to put this all in here. This is a lot wetter on this side than the other side. And woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Okay, now what we want to do, we're going to take your paper and we're going to blot it because there's a lot of clouds that go across. Those are the clouds. Pick it up more. That particular blue that I used is one of the blues that doesn't like to be picked up as much. Some colors are what they call staining, and they, let's see, here I am picking more up, making it look like there's a clouds going over the earth. You know, a little bit like that. It's not wonderful, but it's the idea. Okay, so we're going to let that now, we're going to let that dry. And as we're letting that dry, we can mix up our paints for our galaxy background. So you want to be sure to have a blue, and I want a dark blue. If your blue isn't dark, remember from that first video I sent, we had tea consistency for your paint all the way to butter. So this is going to be more like a butter consistency. And just add more and more. But we've got quite a bit of paper here that we need to cover. So you have to take that into consideration when you're mixing paint. How much paint am I going to need? And of course, all of us don't want to use our paint up too much. So it's like, well, I don't really want to have all my paint mixed up, because then what am I going to do with it? So that's a consideration as well. So here's our blue, and then we wanted some orange. Okay, wash off my brush and my water. Can you hear that? I know you can't see it, but can you hear it? So then right there, we're going to clean our brush off. And now we're going to make a little puddle of orange over here. I have this kind of reddish, a red orange. I used it the other day to show how to make paints. And I think that's orange enough. I'm not going to make anything else. I like that color, so we're going to use that. Okay, so now, is our paper dry enough? Almost, yeah. This is certainly dry enough down here. But I thought we'd do the sky back here. So I'm going to take a larger brush now. If you have one, fine. If you don't, you can use your smaller brush. And again, I'm going to go and I'm going to wet the whole paper. Going to wet the whole paper all around our world, and we can even leave a little white space around our earth, just a little bit of white space. And we're going to cover all of this with water. Okay, now I'm going to get my paint here, blue. I think I might use this big brush for that. We'll see how this works. We're going to put blue here, and ooh, that's going to take a lot of paint. I'm going to put blue here, and then I'm going to take my other brush and take the orange and drop the orange in for our galaxy colors. So here, cup blue, go around the galaxy there. And it's important to have it wet so we don't get these hard edges. We want our edges to meld together this time. Sometimes we want a hard edge, like the edge of the moon there. Sometimes we want edges that aren't hard, and our sky is one we don't want a hard edge. Let me go over here. Let's drop some in. And if we have enough paint and enough water, this can work really wonderfully. And you get what you get, and you have to be satisfied with it. So over here we want some more, and what we're going to do, we're going to drop around here, drop some more paint in, paint over here. Let's see, maybe I'll go in a little circle there. Circle up here. Circle here around. Oh, we got too close to the earth right there. Maybe what we'll do is we want it to be uniform right around the earth, so I think I'll do that. Then come to the side here. Okay, now if it's wet or partially wet, we can turn this upside down, turn it around, and get it to move. If you have more water than me, it might move better. So we'll let that dry. Okay, now we're going to add some rocks to our moon, and we're going to do this with a darker color, gray, or whatever you have. So remember that as things are closer to you, they're bigger, and as they go farther away, they get smaller. So our rocks down here are going to be bigger, and the bottom of it, we're going to try and keep it straight. The rest of it, because it's on the ground, the rest of it can be jagged. All kinds of jagged rocks. Big here. And then one over here, maybe. Can you see? And then as I get farther away, I'm going to make my rocks smaller and smaller. And they're closer and closer together as they get farther away too. Straight on the bottom and then just jaggedy at the top. Straight on the bottom, jaggedy around, and then smaller ones. Smaller and closer together here. Maybe turn your brush on the side. Because we want the moon to have more rocks on it, don't we? Okay. Okay, now I think the moon looks pretty good, but I don't think my sky looks that great. So one thing we can do is we can wet the sky again. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to wet the sky all again, go on top of it, because we're not making it lighter, we're making it darker. And we'll make it wet, wet, wet. But remember, we don't want it to pool. We just want it to be wet. Pooling means the water starts running off your page. Is it pooling there? Almost. Not quite. Okay. So here we've got it wet. I'm going to take my blue. And actually, I think I need more blue. Ooh, I'm not set up well enough. Okay. We're going to take blue and I'm going to drop it into the water. Drop it in. Because it's wet, it won't end up being a mess, I hope. I hope. See, it kind of all melds with the water there. Oh, I think maybe we need a little more red here. Red there. So wash that off. Now let's not mix the red with the blue. Okay, we got to put more blue here. More water. Around here. Blue, because it's going to be quite dark, isn't it? When you look beyond, it's almost like it's black. Oops, oops. Oh, that's what I didn't want to do. I didn't want to do that. No, 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 no. Can I lift that up? Oh, well. Looks like there's a blob in the ocean. That's okay. Okay, we're still wet over here. Add some more dark paint. Over here, I'm going to add some more dark paint. I think this time we're going to be able to get it to run. A couple of reds in there. Wash that, and let's see. And let this run. One of the things that helps things to run and expand with watercolor is the kind of paper you have. When you get expensive watercolor paper, what it does is it keeps wet longer. The fibers in the paper are made to hold the water better. That's why it's more expensive. And then you can get better running and moving together. I'll do a video some other time and show you the difference between the kinds of papers. Okay, I'd like to see how yours runs. Now, what's left? What's left? Well, I think we may do the sky again, but we've got our astronaut, don't we? Now, we don't want to make him too dark because he'll disappear if we make him too dark, won't he? I think I'm going to do him a very, very light gray and a different kind of gray because I don't want it to match the moon. So I've got Payne's gray here and I've got white. And maybe what we can do, or the blue, maybe we ought to do that, boys. Take a very, you have white, I think, in your palette. I've got white in mine. I'm going to take white and put it here. And there's a little bit of paint left on my brush, so it's making the white very, very light blue. And that's what I'm going to use. I'm going to make our astronaut that color. Or we could have just left him white from the paper. That would have been fine too. Okay, there's our astronaut. What do you think? Are we done? I think maybe we're done. It was kind of a long video. I love to see what you do. Show me your work. Have a good day. So after I did my piece, I thought, I want the sky darker. So I wet the whole thing and did dark blue over all of it again. And then I'm waiting for that to dry. Okay, so I went over it again. This is the second time. I wet the whole background. I went over it with a dark blue, and it's gonna dry again. And I'm gonna try it again. See what happens when I do it the third time. How dark can I get it? Okay, I'm gonna do it one more time. Let's see what happens. Contrast is really good. Contrast is when one thing is light and one thing is dark. You see things better that way. If everything is the same lightness or darkness, it's hard to see, differentiate between things. But when something is really dark and something is really light, then you see each thing better. So as I'm doing this, you can see how as this is getting darker, our earth is coming out more. It's like you can see the earth almost better. And I haven't touched the earth at all. Haven't touched the earth at all. All I've done is made the background darker. So here again, I put water on everything. Now I've got some more blue, and we're going to put the blue up the top here. And a lot of blue, dark, dark, dark. And then I've got to turn it towards me. I know it's upside down to you. I'm going to pull the blue down. So see if I can make it really smooth all the way to the edge of the moon. I don't want to make the mistake of getting it into our earth. And since it's wet, I do have a really good wet piece of paper here. I'm going to turn it and see if it will move itself down the rest of the paper. So now we really see the earth. And those orange spots look a little better, don't they? They look like there's some kind of galaxy or something in the background. The other thing you could do is if you have a white gel pen, when this is all dry, you could take your gel pen and go over the dark sky and make stars. If you have white acrylic paint, you could do that too. It won't work with white watercolor paint, but white acrylic paint or a gel pen will work fine to make stars in the sky. I'd love to see your work, guys. Have a great day. Bye-bye. So, have a good day. You can do it whatever colors you want. I know that maybe you don't want to use those colors. Use whatever colors you want and have fun with it. The point is just to have fun with it. So I'd love to see what you do, and you can comment or you can send me a picture. That would be fine. Love you guys. Bye-bye.